a successful model, and of course that's partly why the North-Texas Church of Freethought exists. But then someone had a great idea that we would start out with a kind of a little orientation or introduction of what the FECOF is. And at first I thought, oh, it'd be boring. It'd be like one of these TV shows where you got the same theme song, and you just wish you could skip past that. But then I realized there was all kinds of different ways of exploring what we're about. So it really has worked well. But why do we have to do that? Well, because after 19 years in atheist church, it's still something of novelty, and really not giving an account of themselves at the outset of their services is just one more thing that the other churches are doing wrong. Just imagine if the other churches did what we do. Like, I was raised Catholic. You go in before the Mass starts, they should get the priest up there who says, welcome to the Catholic Church, where we believe that condoms are worse than AIDS. And that this, and this, and this, and all of these are people just like you. Our leaders never have sex, and that proves how virtuous and holy they are. And by the way, if you don't believe what we tell you, then you will be tortured forever after you die. Now, it's easy to understand why the other churches don't do that. And I'm not just picking on Catholics, but it is my special right to do that, as I said, since I'm kind of an ethnic Catholic. But all the other traditional churches would have something similar to say. So, take the Mormons. Yes, please take the Mormons. And the Scientologists too, while you're at it. So, truth in advertising, we are an atheist church. But if all the other churches obsessed about reincarnation instead of God, then we probably say that we are a reincarnationists and an a reincarnationist church. We sometimes call the NTCUF the unchurch. Whatever the supernaturalism places are doing, we do. We don't do that. The opposite. We just don't have much use for the supernatural generally. I'd say much use instead of any use, because we rationalists still enjoy the occasional Hollywood production featuring poltergeists and telepathy and telekinesis and even ancient biblical artifacts that melt the faces of the evil Nazis. What other kind of Nazis are there anyway, though? Believers often think that we must have boring lives and that an atheist church must be even more boring, sitting around not talking about what we don't believe in, but it's just the opposite. As unbelievers, we do talk, and especially think about these things that our ancestors believed, and that so many people still believe. Although we cannot accept them as having to do with the objective world of reality, this is precisely the point for us, to be able to discriminate between the real and the fictional. So for us, it's like Disney World. Imagination and make-believe help us learn about and discover things about ourselves and the human condition. Even God, or gods, quite possibly were the earliest thought experiments. Now, some atheists insist that God can only be the angry, vengeful, genocidal maniac of the Old Testament. All the better to show how silly and cruel God is and how stupid anyone must be who takes such a God seriously. But we're the sort of atheists who understand that sort of deity, but we can also grasp the far more popular idea of a loving and forgiving God, or a deistic God that set the universe running and then had a little more to do with it, a God who is the source of morality, and we also grasp why none of these ideas have much to offer either when you start drilling down into them. We're the sort of atheists who can even understand an extraterrestrial engineer sort of God, or a God like the inhabitants of Star Trek's Q continuum. You've seen that series of shows, you know, Q just pops in and he's like omnipotent power. And of course, deities like that point towards the late science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke's dictum, most of you probably heard this, that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So there's the link between science and the supernatural, so-called, or what appears to be supernatural. So here's some different gods. This guy's had a couple of movies now. Pretty cool. Well, dictionaries, like all other works of human literature, are not authoritative or timeless sources of knowledge. Sometimes people come up with this drawing things. Chrissy, you're late.
I am,
Chrissy
yes.
spotted out. But dictionaries can be helpful guides to usage, and one dictionary, which is the dictionary.reference.com, which I believe is Merriam-Webster, put it this way: thought unrestrained by deference to authority, tradition, or established belief, especially in matters of religion. On the C word, specifically church, our stance is this. Church is a unit of social organization, intermediate between that of the family and the larger community. That's all it is. Its basis is not the relatedness that you have in the family or people that make blended families now that you have where they decide to make a household and so forth. The basis of churches are shared values and a sense of meaning, and I think it's clear now what our values are and what it is that we take to be meaningful. Or maybe you need to keep coming to our services and find out more. We hope you do. If we haven't created something like this, that we are free thinkers working to understand and live by the rule of reason, enjoying fellowship and sharing our rational outlook, learning from each other, serving something larger than our own egos, and caring and helping others through life's passages or through our hurting. And finally, demonstrating that the rule of reason and the love for this one life that we know is sufficient. So here's some announcements. First of all, next month we meet here on May 4th in this very same place. It might not be this very same room, but often it is. The National Day of Reason is May 1st. National Day of Reason was put together by humanists and a bunch of other people, unbelievers like us, as a counterpoise to the first Thursday of May, National Day of Prayer that was declared by Congress. So anybody that's interested in doing something on that day, it's a Thursday, so most of us have to work, I suppose. Easter is Sunday, April 20th. And Mark, did we decide we're probably not gonna have our Sunday brunch then on Easter?
We might. We haven't decided. It could be at Jason's, but if they're open.
Haven't decided yet. Yeah. So check with us. We'll put something on the website. Anyways, most other Sundays besides the first Sunday of the month, we meet at the the Hilton DFW Lakes, which is over near Grapevine Mill Mall. There's a restaurant in the hotel called the Vineyard. It's not the same as a Vineyard restaurant down the road. So you're welcome to join us there. We call it Freethought Salon. It's kind of our brain for us to get together in a more intimate setting and have breakfast. We always need ideas. We always need volunteers to carry them out. We really can do more together and at less personal cost and risk if we work together than people trying to do something on their own. So if you have ideas, share them. Let's cook them into something. And finally, leave feedback on the back of your program that you have. If you don't have one of these, there are plenty around. And on the back especially, there's a thing as to which videos you like or dislike. I hope we don't have video overdose today, but I think we've got a good selection of things. So we'll set them each up. By the way, did anyone hear or encounter any good April Fool jokes or pranks? I didn't hear so much as a joke. Nobody helped me out. But today our service focuses on the funny side of free thought. And we have in the past looked at humor, why we laugh, what makes comedy such a distinguishing human characteristic. In fact, I'm not aware of any other animal that finds anything about their existence funny, although non-human primates, as well as dogs and rats, they have found that they produce kind of vocalizations that apparently are the equivalent of laughter, and you can provoke them or you see them when they play, or if you tickle them. And yes, it's possible to tickle a rat. As we know, comedy and humor for humans depends critically on language and cognition, skills at which we excel and that are lacking or deficient in other animals. A very good case can be made that humor depends on an ability and a willingness to see connections not usually apparent, and to rapidly switch between different, sometimes very different conceptual frameworks and contexts. Maybe that's why free thinkers do laugh more than believers. The joke isn't funny until and unless we get it. That takes some cognition. H.L. Mencken was a famous writer, journalist, and social critic of the early 20th century. He attended and wrote about the Scopes monkey trial in 1925. If you've seen that movie, Inherit the Wind, right? Pretty much everybody's seen that. Yeah, well, if you haven't seen it, you gotta put that on your bucket list. Anyway, there's an atheist journalist character in there named Hornbeck, and he's based on Mencken. I don't think Mencken was entirely admirable. If you read up on him, not always had great ideas. But after all, there's a sense in which to have heroes is to diminish oneself. But Mencken said many things that remain good food for thought, one of which is that God is a comedian playing to an audience too afraid to laugh. I think for a moment what that means. For to believe in God means to take God seriously. Conversely, to laugh at God is blasphemy. Further, the claim of believers is that in this big drama that we're all supposedly involved with, the stakes are just inconceivably, stupefyingly high. Yet if God were a comedian, who of us, either believers or unbelievers, would find him funny? Of course, human existence has been called a joke, but who has played the joke and on whom? Well, Sarah Nagel, who's sitting right here, is going to come up next. She's one half of the NTCOS webmastering and web hosting team. She's going to talk about, show some material related to British comedian Ricky Gervais, who, as you should know, is one of us. In fact, was it the Academy Awards or Oscar night or something? He kind of finished up by saying, thank you all for coming, thank the Academy, and then the very last thing he slipped in before it was cut off was, and thank God for making me an atheist.
You'll never do that show again.
He's not welcome anymore. So anyway, Sarah and I had some discussion about why the British and Irish seem to have so many good atheist humorists. And I got to thinking about it, and I thought, well, but we have Mark Twain, we had George Carlin, and today we have Penn and Teller. But could it be that in present circumstances we have more to fear from the offended fanatical zealots? So, but being afraid to offend them, on the other hand, could be the wrong approach. We had Penn and Teller to get up there and spare the slings and arrows, and they seem to be doing very well with that. Seeing the ridiculousness of such things as creationism and laughing at the notion that it's okay to use mathematics to prevent pregnancy, but not chemistry, that might be the better way to reduce the power of superstition in society, is to just laugh at it away. So I'll let Sarah tell you a bit about herself. She can do it better than I can. She's presented before, and she will present again in May. I hope I've talked you into that. We're going to be talking about Freethought, family values, and Sarah has experience raising atheist kids. Yes, Lynn?
You asked about April 1st, April Fool's jokes. I only heard one, and that was that the Rangers Stadium was going to withdraw beer because they lost their openers.
Oh, that's it? That's a joke?
That's it.
Some of the things I saw were like for kind of crazy electronic devices, but then when you read about them, you thought, well, that's reasonable. You know, probably in 10 or 20 years they will have that. I did hear about someone being sent to the grocery store to get the new flavor of Listerine, bacon flavor.
That's real, isn't it?
So, well, that's the thing. See, so people would buy it. They would.
Oh, no, man, that's just not good.
Okay, so you need to toggle to
Yes,
what you're doing.
please. I left my paper at home. I had to print out like the professional here and the craziness of getting kids and us out of the house and it's raining and I'm running away. I left the paper at home.
So what am I
I
going
put
to
it
do?
on my phone. So I'm not on Facebook, you know, updating any status alerts or tweeting about anything. I'm looking at notes that I could
Looks
put
like
together in the car on the way here.
Looks like there's two.
Yes.
It's the bigger one.
Yes, please, that one. Perfect. Okay, so I talked to Tim.
That would pass it.
That one, okay, thanks. I talked to Tim about wanting to present on more contemporary performers and atheists because it's great to talk about people from the past, but it's kind of like so stretched out, and I think having sort of a community feel that, obviously we're not alone, we know that, but being able to see it out there and maybe introducing people that we may not be aware that are sort of on this way of unbelievers or rethinkers or however you want to phrase it is a little bit comforting, right? So I wanted to start with somebody that I've been watching, that I enjoy his performances. He's, let's see, so Ricky Gervais, of course, as you already alluded to, is British. And it seems like all the British people are able to make fun of religion in the United States a little bit more serious about these matters. doesn't. It's not a matter of opinion. You can have your opinions, but you can't have your own facts. It's strange that anyone who believes in an all-powerful, all-knowing, omniscient power responsible for everything that happens would also want to judge and punish people for what they are. When confronted with anyone who holds my lack of religious faith in such contempt, I say, it's the way God made me. Let's be honest, if one person believed in God, he would be considered pretty strange. But because it's a very popular view, it's accepted. Do unto others is a good rule of thumb. I live by that. Forgiveness is probably the greatest virtue there is. But it's exactly what it is, a virtue. Not a Christian virtue. No one owns being good. I'm good. I just don't believe I'll be rewarded for it in heaven. My reward is here and now. It's knowing that I tried to do the right thing, that I lived a good life, and that's where spirituality really lost its way. When it became a stick to beat people with, do this, or you'll burn in hell. You won't burn in hell, but be nice anyway. I think it's strange myth that atheists have nothing to live for. It's the opposite. We have nothing to die for. We have everything to live for.
That is really good.
I see atheists are fighting and killing each other again over who doesn't believe in God the most. Oh, no, wait, that never happens. The truth, however shocking or uncomfortable, in the end leads to liberation and dignity. A Christian telling an atheist they're going to hell is as scary as a child telling an adult they're not getting any presents from Santa. Okay, so there's a number of YouTube videos to watch. They're not safe for kids. There's some profanity, and I want to keep things clean here. So make a mental note. He's got a topic on the Book of Noah, some nursery rhymes, and rumors, spelled British, rumors on the Bible. So hopefully after the service today, when you're in the comfort of your home without kids, you can go watch those. Let's see. And I have some videos. So I also wanted to go into how he, number one, how his story about how he transitioned from being a believer.
Absolutely, yeah.
What are the lessons that you learned?
The truth doesn't hurt. Whatever it is, it doesn't hurt. It's better to know the truth. My mum only lied to me about one thing. She said there was a God, and but that's because when you're a working class mum, Jesus is like an unpaid babysitter. Do you know what I mean? It's just sort of like, she wants you to be good. You know, the best of working class mum where I grew up, she doesn't hope that I'd be a doctor or a lawyer. She hoped I wouldn't be stabbed to death in a barroom fight, you know. So, best thing to do is, well, if he's God-fearing, then it'd be good. It's a good rule of thumb, because, you know, I went to Sunday school from about the age of 4 till 8. It was just great teachings of Jesus. I love Jesus. He was my superhero. It really was. God was magic, right? But Jesus was just a man. And what I loved about Jesus was he was kind. And he was brave, and I thought he was amazing. And I thought he was brilliant, like just a brilliant guy, you know. So I was about 8, and my brother must have been 19. He came in once, and I was doing something from the Bible, and I said, what are you doing? He said, oh, join Jesus. And he went, who was Jesus? I said, well, he was the Son of God. He went, why do you believe in God? Right? And my mum went, Bob, shut up. And I knew she had something to hide. And he was telling the truth. And I knew from body language. And then I worked it out, and I was an atheist in an hour. Yeah. It's true. I wish there was a God. I wish there was. It'd be great. What I've heard, he's brilliant, you know. But you can't believe in something you don't. Also, if there is a God, why did he make me an atheist? That was his first mistake. Well, the talking snake was his first mistake, but...
So the next one is an interview he did on CNN. Or was it CNN?
You get very intense on Twitter. I mean, you get into proper battles with people.
Yeah.
Why do you take it so...
But it's at home I'm smiling.
When someone's arguing with me that the Earth is 5,000 years old,
Yes, I'm smiling. Yeah, of course I'm smiling. You know, the fundamentalist view of the creation of the Earth is rather like an episode of the Flintstones.
so I have to laugh at those sort of
How
things.
does your atheism, which you're passionate about, how does that play with your American audience, given that so many people in America are God-fearing people and probably take exception to it?
Well, they shouldn't. We talked about this last time. Why should they take offence that I don't believe in their God or any other God? And I'd say to them, you know, tell me the reasons why you don't believe in all the other gods, and that's the reason I don't believe in yours. And I've got nothing against people believing in God at all, you know. In fact, if it, you know, did make you a kinder person, if you only did good things in his name, then great, you know, but there's the rub. It's when I see some of these religious fundamentalists saying that they've told their 5-year-old children that if they turn out gay, they will burn in hell. That to me is child abuse. That's nothing to do with religion or spirituality. That's child abuse. So that's why I'm passionate when it
What
comes
do you
to
think
that.
of the Republican nomination race, given that some of the candidates clearly position themselves quite deliberately to say anti-gay marriage, all that kind of thing, based on their religious beliefs?
Well, this we're back to offence, aren't we? Just because they're offended by someone being gay, it doesn't mean they're right. You know, it's this strange thing that being gay is a choice. No, being gay isn't a choice. You know, I want to go, well, go, you try it then. If it's a choice, have a go. See how much you like it. You know?
As someone who's come to America and been the personification of the kind of classic old American dream of, you know, they take anybody from anywhere and anyone can make it big here.
Yeah.
I don't really care what else you've done anywhere else. It's like,
I came fat with terrible teeth.
you was a chubby loser, and now look at
Pretty
you.
sure huddled massive.
Exactly.
Yeah, look at him, he's huddled. But no, America's fantastic. It is the land of opportunity, and there's you know, bits of both cultures that I love and hate, and the wonderful thing about being between England and America, they are both land of freedom, and criticise them all you want, but know that you're in a place that allows you to criticise it, and that's lucky, you know, and that's great, and that should be cherished. And freedom of speech for me is one of the most important things that you know, discovered, and I'll fight for the right bit. And even though I don't believe in God, I don't believe, you know, unlike most religions, I treat all religions the same. I think they're all wrong, not morally wrong, but I don't think there is or would be a God. But if someone said we're banning religion, I'd march to not have it banned, because it's your right to believe what you want, and it's your right to be wrong, and I'll fight for that right.
In the last video, I didn't tell Tim about it, so it's going to be a surprise for him as well. But it's a stand-up shtick about the rumors.
But the trouble about rumour is, if it's written down, someone will believe it. You could have the most far-fetched, made-up, impossible, illogical bollocks, and if it's in print, someone will believe it. Just look at the Bible. Old Testament. Oh, that's my favourite. That is a Rick Rory read, the Old Testament. It's brilliant. I like the God in that one. He's a better God. New Testament God, he's a bit wishy-washy. He's a bit modern parent. Do you know what I mean? He's a bit liberal. Turn the other cheek. No, Old Testament God, he's like 50s dad. He takes his power off and goes, you fucking what? Oh, you know the fucking rules. I've told you. You wound me right up, you muppet. You fucking floods. You, pestilence, fuck off. You, what did you do? That's not too bad. Any. been an atheist since I was about 8 or 9, and when I went to secondary school, by then I knew about natural selection, the Big Bang Theory, carbon dating, and the Earth was 4 billion years old, and so my poor RE teacher, I was the bane of his life. And looking back, he was a bit thick. Right? He was one of those teachers I thought, oh, fuck it, I'll just keep my head down. You know what I mean? He came in on a motorbike and played table tennis all day with the div kids just to keep, you know what I mean? You know the sort, don't you? And he hated me. He hated me because I was smart and I wouldn't let him get away with any bollocks, right? So when he said things like, and God made the heaven and the earth in 6 days, and the earth is 5,000 years old. And no, it isn't. No, it's 4 billion years old. Why? How can you do that? God can do anything. Well, why did he do it in 6? Why did he do it in 5? Let's push him a little bit. Let's, you know. And he was saying that everything that happens, God does. He's done everything. Everything that happens, he means to happen. He's on top of it. He's everywhere, and everything he does is good. And I went, well, that's clearly not true either. Why are newborn babies taken from their parents? They're innocent. Why are some people born into abject poverty? And he went, because God moves in mysterious ways. That is the theological equivalent of going, look over there. Ooh. It's not an answer, is it? We swear on the Bible in a court of law, still. And if the judge was to say to you, how do you account for the fact you say you're home asleep at midnight, but we found your DNA at the scene of the crime, and you went, I move in mysterious ways, good night, it won't wash. This is how stupid this teacher was. A kid asked him, said, sir, why do we swear on the Bible in a court of law? Clearly, the answer is, if you believe in God, if that's your God, you believe in him, you believe he's watching you, you get a guilt trip, you don't lie. He hadn't worked it out. So thinking on his feet, he said, because every law of the land is mentioned in the Bible. I went, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. He went, no, it is. Somewhere in the Bible, every law of this land is mentioned. I went, what, even video piracy? One critic, who I know is religious, said, oh, Gervais deconstructs the Bible, that's too easy. I think, well, it shouldn't be. If you believe in that, you think it's a serious doctrine, it shouldn't be too easy to deconstruct. You can't do it with a maths book. You can't look through and go, listen to this. Listen to go, oh, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. What cunt wrote that? He said that, God is everywhere and in everything. He's solidly through the universe. And I came prepared. I thought, this will end it. I came in like a little smart ass and went, sir, is God in a vacuum which has been scientifically proved to have nothing in it? He went, yep. That's it. I thought, well, I can't win then. So I started saying, is he up my arse? Is he up your arse? The clever stuff hadn't worked. I was going, sir, is God up all our arses? Including Richard Gere's, it must be crowded up there, mustn't it? The New Testament is founded on the belief that Jesus is half man, half God, born of a virgin womb. And I think that particular little rumour came about with Mary on the back foot. Awkward questions about the old pregnancy from Joseph. You're pregnant? You haven't been with... No way. Well, how could this have happened then? 2 ways. One, I know. Remember when I was washing in the Sea of Galilee, and I splashed up some spunky water? No? Spunky water. What about the baby is half God? And everyone went, yeah, all right. But everyone's entitled to their opinion. And if you believe in God, you're wrong. Everyone is entitled.
Okay, so that's pretty much the end of my presentation and the beginning of all the fun videos that I think Tim has planned. If it's okay with you guys, and you can, I guess, write it down in your little vote on your paper and put it in the box. Let me know. Let us know if you'd like me to continue to present on maybe another contemporary atheist who's out there, somebody else. There's so many artists. They're not all of them are performers in the sense like him, but some also do music, which is another thing that I'm passionate
right? Well, anyways, that's what we need feedback. It's on the back of your programs too. Let us know what we should be looking for. As Sarah said, you know, a lot of comedy out there has got what I call potty mouth, and my son says, the very fact you're using that word potty mouth, it shows that you've had kids for too long. Okay.
I scoped out the room, and I saw, okay, there are no kids here, so probably okay to do that.
Anyway, so
If there had been kids, I would have.
guilty as charged for me. Oh, who's heard of Dave Allen? Ever heard of Dave Allen? This guy was an Irish comedian who became known in Australia and the UK in the late 1960s and early 70s. And he's said to have considerable influence on British comedy. You know, some of the British Monty Python and other greats point to him as well. He was my inspiration. He had a major resurgence in the late 1980s and 1990s. Now, as you might imagine, being Irish, he had a strict Catholic upbringing, and his routines often skewered Catholic Church as well as religion generally, and the politicians of his day. He didn't let them get away with anything. He almost like a British George Carlin, but his manner was completely different. He died in 2005 at the age of 68, so he's not with us any longer, but here he is talking about the biblical story of creation and Adam and Eve, and this is basically his shtick, how he does it.
I am what you might call a practicing atheist. I'm quite happy to be an atheist because actually God likes atheists better. I never ask him anything. I'm not bothering him all the time. Saying, God, please help me in the business. And as a practicing atheist, there's certain things that I travel around the world, and no matter where I go, somebody called Gideon leaves me this book. It's an Irish book because it said it all began at the beginning. There are certain things that, when I read about it, and I do read about it, that I find difficult to understand. I mean, if God has been there forever, what was he doing before he got to us? I mean, what was he out there doing? Was he sitting there going, bored today, what am I doing? And then suddenly from nowhere, he suddenly decided to create a world. I'll make a world. That's it. Make a world. Yes, that's right. Rivers, seas, mountains. Boom! Everything is there. I want a garden. I'd like a nice garden. What? Gardening. Hate gardening. Need a garden. Garden, spitting dust. And he, Adam, never once says, where in America did I come from? I mean, he's 40 years of age. He has no child, and he has no recall. He doesn't say, how did I get here? But he's quite happy. He just kind of trundles around the garden, working away. And God is looking at him. And he sees that Adam is happy. Sneaks down like a thief and steals, doesn't ask, doesn't request, steals it. His rib. And from his rib, he makes woman. And Adam wakes up in the morning, he's a real thickie. He's lying at it. And there's somebody else, he doesn't say, where did you come from? How the hell did you get here? Where did you get those lumps? Just goes out and goes gardening. And God comes down and has a conversation with Eve and tells her that she can eat of any fruit in the tree in the whole garden with the exception of one fruit tree. He's talking to a woman. He actually tells her not to eat of the fruit. And then when she said, which tree can I? He said, that one over there. He points it out to her. And when he goes and hides, and she sneaks up to the tree, and a snake comes down and has a conversation. A actually convinces her to eat the apple. And she eats the apple. And when she eats the apple, she learns shame. That's what happens when you eat apples. Now, she's not ashamed that she's disobeyed God or that she's eaten the apple. She's ashamed of one part of her body. That's all. She becomes ashamed of that area of the body. Now, why that area? Why not her elbow? Her nose. Do you actually realize that if Eve had been ashamed of her nose, every woman in the world now would be ashamed of your noses? You'd all be sitting here tonight with little nose knickers on. Men would be in nightclubs watching totally naked ladies with G-strings on their nose. Take them off. Oh, I saw a nose. And this is the book. This is the book that you'll go into court and place your hand upon. And swear to tell the truth, the whole truth,
And it was said that people, and he's an Irishman, people were always assumed he was drinking whiskey or something, and it was actually ginger ale that he drinks in this act. So, on the next story in the Bible, how many have heard of Eddie Izzard? Okay, quite a few. Eddie Izzard, he's a British comedian known for his, it's kind of a rambling, whimsical monologue and self-referential pantomime. He also often does so while dressed in women's clothes, and he puts makeup on. Although he has insisted that he's not homosexual, he says he's a straight transvestite or a male lesbian. There's also a place where he says, I'm 100% man and half girl. Well, religion is a frequent target of Izzard's humor, and here he is talking about Noah's Ark. I did make a playlist in Real Player, but it didn't work.
Noah, he knew about animals, or yes he did. And he's mentioned in the Bible, which I think are oral history, so I think it did happen. There was a flood. There's flood stories mentioned in the Bible, mentioned outside the Bible. We saw the tsunami. We know they happened. Now the big point is, did God tell him to make a boat, or did Noah just use his captain common sense? There's a number of us. If we were somewhere where it was raining and 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 raining, and we had a big pile of wood, some of us might put two and two together and go, I'm going to make a bloody boat. Others might go, I'm going to make a hex. I'm going to build a monkey emporium. I'm going to build a big set of wooden shoes. It will fit a giant. But he made a boat. Oh, he was quite sensible. And what did he put on the boat? His family. What else? Animals. Which animals? Any he could find. Did he put two of every animal in the world on the boat? No. How could I be so sure? Try it. Just try it. It's impossible. And there is such a word as impossible. It's impossible to eat the Himalayas. You know, there's such a word as can't. Well, try eating the bloody Himalayas. Oh, I got full after that. Too mountains. You're not going to get through that. So he was there, and he built this boat, and, you know, just trying to get everything on there would be a nightmare. And it had to be everything. From two dung beetles up to two giant squid. All of them. All the fish have to be there, because we know they were bad. Some of them. Sharks are bad. You know, very few good sharks. Very few sharks say, we found a child. It was swimming about, having a bad time. We were going to eat him, but we thought it is not our way anymore. Since the Geneva Convention on sharks, and the agreement that sharks made with humans, we took his leg, but that is our trade. We call him Stumpy. Or Thumper. I think his name is Kevin. So, Noah would be there saying, alright, Marvin, perfect, just stuff them all over the boat. Lash one giant squid to the roof. Just do it, it's raining, Margaret, it doesn't matter. Just put them anywhere. Shove them in cupboards. The giant squid sticking out of cupboards going, there's no towels. Is she there? No towels. Giant squid diary day one, got to the boat, everything rather damp, must inform TripAdvisor. Seemed to be running out of ink. Met a number of animals, interesting ones, cat, dog, squirrel, and mouse. I will eat them later. Can't find Horace, think he's lashed to the roof. the whole 2x2 thing doesn't work. 2x2 animals. All right, here we go. Kids, gotta get them up 2x2. Two tigers, 2 cats, 2 dogs, 2 fish, 2 rabbits, 2 squirrels, 2 llamas, 2 blue things, 2 zebras. How many is that? So far, 2 tigers down. What do you know? What happened? They just seemed to, it became a Wendy's all-you-can-eat kind of. Do we have a psychotherapist on board? Because I think I need to readjust after that. It wouldn't work. Lions and tigers eat everything. It's like putting students on a boat with a load of cake mix, isn't it? It would just be a munching fest. I've been up close to a lion, and they just do that. And after 40 days and 40 nights of rain, which is 40 days of rain, isn't it? The nights are implicit, for God's sake. It's a month and a bit of rain. Don't drag it out. Just, oh, no, 40 lunchtimes and 40 afternoon teas. Just pattern out the Bible. After that period of time, they'll be there, from the Bible, on the bit of land. Say, we're here as the ark makes landfall. What a historic day. God's plan has worked. The ark is made with 2 of everything. And here they come. There's Noah and his family first trying to get away. Oh, they're rushing away. They're probably meeting some friends late for a dinner appointment. And lions and tigers, there they go. Well, they're chasing them out and made friends already. That's what it said. No one else at the moment must be packing. Just getting their things together. What a wonderful, glorious day. Oh, here comes a squirrel just running out there. Mr. Squirrel, how did it go? It was a nightmare, man. Don't go there. It was crazy. They killed everything. Those stripy bastards, they killed everything, man. There's nothing there, man. It's all there. All there is like a ghost ship. I escaped. I hid in a colander. Oh, shit, you gotta write that down in the Bible. It was a bad plan, man. Bad plan. What happened to your wife? She got away in a boat with an owl and a cat. Did they take anything with them? Yeah, they took spoons and a helicopter, a little toy one, and a Gatling gun. Now the pussycat went to sea in a beautiful peacock boat. They took some spoons, a helicopter, and a Gatling gun. Yeah.
Personally, I like it when there's like a reenactment, and how many have heard of Mitchell and Webb? David Mitchell and Robert Webb. They have a short here which called God Decides to Kill Ivan.
And on the 6th day, God created man and woman to have dominion over the animals. And on the 7th day, God rested. And on the 8th day, God rested. And on the 9th day, God rested. So he basically just rested. And then drowned everyone and invented the rainbow. And then rested. And that, as it brings us pretty much up till now.
Thanks, Dad. Wow, the Lord sounds smart.
He is smart, especially those first 6 days where he made everything, but also generally. Now, run along and play in the grid.
Great. Bye.
I was just telling my son about all the wonderful ideas you've had.
Good, because Abraham, actually, I've had another one.
Another idea? An idea from the Lord? Oh, please tell.
Yes, I will. And okay, and do tell me if you think this is sort of, well, out of order, you know.
What?
Right. Well, my new idea is human sacrifice!
What?
You know, human sacrifice? I think you should kill someone. And I was thinking you should kill Ivan.
Ivan?
Ivan, your son.
Oh, Isaac!
Isaac! I'm so sorry, it's Isaac. Yes, Isaac. I think you should kill Isaac. So, what do you think?
Brilliant!
Really?
Oh, yes, Lord, another winner. Ivan, rustle up a fire, we're making a sacrifice.
Ivan? I thought you said his name was...
Oh, no, Ivan's a much better name, Lord. You were right. Oh, I can't wait to see the look on his face.
Well, you're sure you're fine with this?
Absolutely.
You would say.
I would say what, Lord?
Well, you know, if you thought I was asking you to do something, you know, wrong.
If I thought it was wrong, like I know, like I have any chance of forming an independent basis of right and wrong outside the instructions of some supervisory being. No, Lord, I am your bitch.
Yeah, okay, but...
Finish the pie, Dad.
Hello, Ivan.
Where's the sacrifice?
Oh, that's a good point. Where is it? Any ideas, Lord? Oh, wait, I remember. It's there.
What?
Yes, Isaac, Ivan. The Lord's new idea is that I should sacrifice you.
Me? Brilliant!
Yes, on the fifth day he invented the birds and the fish, and today he's invented me murdering my son. Another winner, Lord. You're certainly not tinkering with an already perfect creation like some giant see-through George Lucas.
Oh, here's a nice stubby bit of flint, Dad.
No, hang on.
Right, brace yourself, lad.
No, wait. Look, wait.
Yes, Lord?
It was a test.
Oh, a test! Oh, what another brilliant idea.
He's so smart.
Did we pass?
Oh, you really passed. Yes. Big tip.
Great. Well, do let us know if you have any other brilliant ideas, Lord.
Yes, Oh, actually, while you have that flint handy, I did have another, idea.
Yes?
Well, what if you were to... say this is weird, but what if you were to cut off your son's... oh, what's it called? I can't think of the name. The skin around the... oh, I'll get back to you.
Can't wait.
So these Bible-themed riffs and sketches are amusing, and it's interesting to consider why they're funny. I think first of all it's because these are familiar stories, but people don't really think about them too much. To examine them closely reveals the absurdities that were not apparent and perhaps impossible to grasp when they first were put into our brains, right, as children. A good comedian could probably do the same thing with stories like Jack and the Beanstalk, but it wouldn't be as funny since no one but children take such stories seriously. So here is next clip is an American comedian's take on how people mix and match beliefs about how they put this stuff in your head, and then as you grow up, it's like, oh, I'll go with that, but not with this, and so on. So they'll go with beliefs about Noah's Ark, but the moral and metaphysical teachings in which Christians supposedly believe. Now this has got a bit of the element of potty mouth, as I said, so we're checking that there are no vulnerable children in here. This guy's name is Doug Stanton. Anybody heard of him before? All right.
How many Christians here tonight? Right, brother? Hardcore? No, not hardcore. You make your own Christianity. Yeah. I mean, I'm not busting on you. That's what people do. If you just never heard of the Bible, how old are you? 32. You've never heard of the Bible, you never heard of the Bible, never talked to you. You were just walking through a used bookstore today and stumbled across the Bible like a pioneer. Little Lewis and Clark, and you're thumbing through it while you're taking a shit. Yeah, you can read anything while you're taking a shit, right? Okay, let's say they put on the back of fucking Captain Crunch. How about that? Right? Read anything on the back of Captain Crunch. How quick would you recognize that as true? Would you go, hey, this is exactly what I was looking for? Yeah, the fucking flood and the ark, and yeah, this sounds incredibly true. You'd throw it in the trash, would you not? If you've never, that's why they have to pump it into your head when you're still little, and you get a soft spot, and you're Santa Claus eligible, and they fucking pump it all in there then, you don't know any better, and then they cork it in there with a whole bunch of fear, and what you do, where you go, I'm not really that hardcore, you made your own Christianity. What your brain does is it fucking, you believe all the parts that don't affect your life at all. I believe in heaven, I believe Jesus, and the resurrection, yeah, sure. But the parts that affect your instincts directly, which is your real God, if you think about it. Your fucking brain grows around that like a club foot. Oh, we have to adapt here. No, I believe in Garden of Eden and all that, yeah. Oh, premarital sex? No, I think that was a typo. typo. That's open to interpretation. But I believe in no, sure. And yeah, I love thy neighbor to an extent, except for that fuckhead up in 3B who plays Beastie Boys till 4 o'clock in the morning. He's gonna poison his fucking dog if it doesn't stop barking. But the Bible was written before Beastie Boys were around, so it's open to interpretation. You don't believe it. You don't. And this is how I know that those people, because every time you see a tragedy, whether it's 9/11 or a bus goes into a lake or a fucking grandma spontaneously combusts, whatever it is, you see people on the news and they're whining like cunts and they go, it's horrible, it's terrible, and it's tragic. But at least he's in a better place now. He's with Jesus. Your loved one is dancing around on a fluffy cloud in an everlasting paradise for all of eternity, without a care in the world, happier than pinworms in a baby's stool. Why are you crying? You should be ecstatic if you really believe it. You should be calling all your friends on the phone. Did you hear the great news? Lightning struck my baby. Yeah, he's in a better place. God picked him. I told you he was adorable. God spared him that average 72-year sentence on this shithole player. Do you really believe that death leads to eternal bliss, and why are you wearing a seatbelt? Because you're just not sure.
But he's right, you know, those Old Testament stories and so forth. So it's almost really too easy to make fun of the Old Testament. According to American comedian Louis Black, this is in part because people forget where the Old Testament came from. Where did the Old Testament come from? I'll just set this clip up. He's talking about President George Bush, George W. Bush at the time, who said that the jury is still out on evolution. So, and Black's whole style, he describes as angry ranting, as stemming from his feeling of, as he puts it, being on that Titanic every single day and being the only person who knows what's going to happen.
But now, he believes that the earth was created in 7 days. Whew. Takes my breath away. And why does he believe that? Because he read it in the Old Testament, which is the book of my people, the Jewish people. And that book wasn't good enough for you Christians. Was it? He went, no, we've got a better book with a better character. You're going to love it. And you called your book new and said our book was old. And yet every Sunday, I turn on the television set. And there's a priest or a pastor reading from my book. And interpreting it. And their interpretations, I have to tell you, are usually wrong. It's not their fault, because it's not their book. You never see a rabbi on TV
be interpreting the New Testament, do you? If you want to truly understand the Old Testament, if there's something you don't quite get, there are Jews who walk among you. And they, I promise you this, will take time out of their very Jewy day. And interpret for you anything that you're having trouble understanding, and we will do that if, of course, the price is right.
All right, well, of course, I don't think there could be any discussion of the funny side of Freethought without mentioning The Life of Brian. Surely you have all seen that. And if you haven't, well, you better go out and rent it right away. The Monty Python movie Life of Brian makes fun, not really the New Testament, really. People think Brian is supposed to be a send-up of Jesus, but actually they never deal with Jesus. This Brian guy is like born in the stable next door at the same time Jesus is, and the wise men come with their gifts, and it's like, oh, wait a second, we made a mistake, we can't come back, etc. But still, this movie was a huge controversy in Britain when that movie came out in 1979. Several towns in Britain banned it. The BBC and the ITV, the Independent Television Authority, another one of the British networks, both refused to air it. It was banned for 8 years in Ireland and for a year in Norway. Well, it makes fun of, well, you have to see the movie. I'm not going to show any clip for the movie, but I will say that during all this controversy, when the movie came out, the two Monty Python principals, mainly John Cleese and Michael Palin, went on talk shows to defend their work. And then they subsequently made a spoof of their experience trying to defend this movie. Now, pay attention to this clip because everything is reversed. John Cleese is the comic messiah. The Gospel of Monty Python is the good book when they refer to that. And Jesus Christ is the title and name of the obscure character of a movie that the Pythonists find deeply offensive. Somebody's on there. As I said, I made a playlist on Real Player, but it didn't do it. Well. Sarah, gonna pop your thing out of here. You're done with it, right? Always good to have a backup.
From the controversial and some would say scurrilous new British picture, the General Synod's Life of Christ. The film deals with the rise to fame and greatness of a humble carpenter's son named Jesus Christ. But many people have seen in the film a thinly disguised and blasphemous attack on the life of Monty Python. Python worshippers claim the film sets out to ridicule by parody the actual members of Monty Python. Men who, even today, are worshipped and revered throughout the Western world. Now, Alexander Walker, what did you think of the picture?
Well, I was appalled. I mean, I actually find it deeply offensive that in a country that is still ostensibly a Python-worshipping country, that a 14-year-old child can actually get in to see this film. I mean, there is little enough proper Python around these days without parading this distorted garbage.
Bishop, you directed the film. Did you expect this kind of reaction?
Well, I certainly didn't expect the Spanish Inquisition. Yes, I did direct the film, and I feel as though I must emphasize at this stage that it is not about Python. I'm not a Pythonist. I'm not a Pythonist myself, but obviously I have a tremendous amount of respect for people like Alexander who are.
Oh, come now, Bishop. I mean, the leading figure in this film, is it Jesus Christ? I mean, he's quite clearly a lampoon of the comic messiah himself, our Lord John Cleese. Even the initials, JC, are exactly the same.
I must explain to you, the Christ figure is not clean. No, he's just an ordinary man who happens to be born in Western Supermare at the same time as Mr. Cleese.
Jonathan, you know as well as I
do. He is mistaken for the comic messiah himself by vast crowds of people who follow him about, doing silly walks, shouting, no, not the comfy chair, and other slogans from the good book.
No, I'm sorry, Jonathan, whatever you say, this film is a highly distasteful one. I mean, have people forgotten how Monty Python suffered for us?
I know.
How often the sketches failed? I mean, these men died for us, frequently.
If Python is immortal, as Pythonists believe, then I can't believe that a mere film,
a 10th rate,
could put them off. I mean, in the words of John Cleese, whenever 2 or 3 are gathered together in one place, then they shall perform the parrot sketch.
It is an ex-parrot.
It has ceased to be.
Well, Alexander Walker, the final scene of the picture has attracted the most attention.
Right, well, I mean, now here, I think we have the ultimate blasphemy. I mean, it is set in a hotel, in Torquay. Literally hundreds of Spanish waiters are being clipped about the ear by this Jesus Christ bloke. It is obviously a lampoon of the comic messiah's greatest half hour.
It's not at all. The point, it's Torbay.
Thank you both very much.
Torbay Torquay.
Bishop, Alexander Walker, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're a Python fan, there are lots of inside jokes that help him too. Okay, so we're probably past time, but got this final clip from Ricky Gervais. He made this film called The Invention of Lying. Now, remember the clip that Sarah showed where Gervais said that my mom only lied to me about one thing. She said there was a God. And if you remember, that was very significant to him. And he goes on about the value of the truth and lying and so forth. Now, connect the dots to this movie, the premise of which is a world in which no one can lie. Not only that, but everyone is like a child who expects that whatever they are told is the truth. They can't even comprehend what it is to deliberately lie. Gervais just has a lot of fun with this idea. You really should see the whole movie. He plays a man who undergoes a freak neurochemical alteration that enables him, uniquely, the only person in the world, to lie. Well, he's amazed by this new ability and uses it to solve his work-related and financial troubles. And then when his mother is dying, miserable at the thought of her final end and obliteration, he lies to her. He tells her that she will go on living forever in a happy place, be young again, and be reunited with her loved ones who have died. And then she dies blissfully right after he tells her this. But he is overheard by some of the hospital staff who, of course, assume, they don't know that he's lying. They assume this is the truth, and we want this additional information that you have. Give us the information. So after an all-night session holed up in his apartment, was it his apartment? I forget. Anyways, the only things they have to write on are pizza boxes. They had called out for pizza, and when he comes to write the stuff down, he writes it on pizza boxes. So it may make you think about a certain Moses going up the mountain and so forth when we get to that. But the initial clips are of what this world is like after he gets this ability to lie.
I'm black.
Wait. Oh, you're very light skinned, but I can see it.
I always wanted a black friend.
Me too.
I'm a one-armed German space explorer.
When's your launch date?
Guten Tag. It's a very lifelike prosthetic.
It's incredible.
$35 black. No one wins.
Look at that unusual thing. I've never... It's gone now. I'm a 35 black, by the way.
We have a winner.
Number one, there is a man in the sky who controls everything. Number two.
Whoa, 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 whoa. What does he look like?
Tall, big hands, making stuff, good head of hair.
What ethnicity is this?
He's a new type of ethnicity. He's a mixture of all our ethnicities.
Does he live in the clouds?
No.
Can we see him?
No. It's high in the clouds, too high to see him.
So he lives in space?
Not that high.
So then the thermosphere?
Sorry, people. I've got a lot to get through here. Just... Man lives in the sky, you can't see him, he controls everything. Cool? Good. Number two, when you die, you don't disappear into an eternity of nothingness. Instead, you go to a really great place. Number three, in that place, everyone will get a mansion.
What kind of mansion?
The best mansion you could think of.
Ah, I was thinking of a horrible mansion.
Well, no, it's the best mansion you could ever think of. Not the one you're thinking of right now, but ever. Whatever the best mansion is you like, that's the one you're going to get. Number four, when you die, all the people you love will be there.
Will they have their own mansions?
Yeah, of course. Everyone gets a mansion.
What if I want them to live in my mansion?
Well, that's fine. They leave their mansion, they come and live with you, won't they?
What happens to their mansion?
I don't know. It goes back on the market. Can we... Number five. When you die, there will be free ice cream for everyone, all day and all night. Whatever flavours you can think of.
Even bad flavors?
Why would you think of bad flavours?
You just said every flavor I could think of.
No, I just thought of vanilla and skunks.
Well, don't eat that then.
I just thought the chocolate sauce was diarrhea.
Well, don't put that on the ice cream then. What is the matter with you people? Please, number six. If you do bad things, you won't get to go to this great place when you die. No. There is no hairstyle that can put you in the bad place. We've been through this. The main ones are things like hurting people physically on purpose, okay? Taking their stuff, doing things to people they don't want done, murdering people on purpose. Okay. Number 9. The man in the sky who controls everything decides if you go to the good place or the bad place. He also decides who lives and who dies.
Does he cause natural disasters?
Yes.
Did he cause my mom to get cancer?
Yes.
Did he cause that tree to land on my car last week?
Yeah.
Did he kill my dad with that heart attack?
Yeah.
I say, fuck the man that lives in the sky! That's evil. That's a coward hiding up there doing bad things to us. Why did he do it to our faces?
We have to stop that evil bastard before he kills us all.
Wait, listen. The man who lives in the sky and controls everything is also responsible for all the good stuff that happens.
He's the guy that saved my life on that fishing trip when the boat capsized?
Yes.
Did he capsize the boat?
Yeah.
He killed my grandmother and left me those millions of dollars?
You bet.
So he's the one who cured my mom's cancer.
So he's kind of a good guy, but he's also kind of a prick, too.
Right, but check this out, okay? Number 10. Even if the man in the sky does bad stuff to you, he makes up for it by giving you an eternity of good stuff after you die.
As long as you're doing that's not the invention, right?
Yeah, of course.
So it's kind of a test.
Well, that's everything I know.
So this Jordan Hustle apparently put the thing together. But anyways, we're past time, and you just closed with a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, think about it. There's always so much to think about in these shows. I mean, by the way, did you catch there's a little plot hole in that movie, The Invention of Wine. Did you catch it? When he says, I'm black, and they believe him, but the first thing his friend says is, I knew it. That was a lie, right? So even they make some errors. I want to remind you before you go, and we're going to get together at the Jason's over on MacArthur, that Freethought is not free. We do depend on all of you for our financial wherewithal. Nobody here is paid. I get emails from time to time, oh, tell me how to do this so I can make a whole lot of money at it. And I have to say, you're not going to make any money at it. But it's a lot of fun if you get people together and do things. There are reasons to give us your money. Besides paying a hotel room, we got kids next door too. They need to know that Freethought is fun and not unusual. And I know that they did Deborah finally show up? Okay, so she talks to them about things like how things are going at school. Our atheist children have to learn to be very circumspect about their beliefs or lack thereof. At any rate, we'll touch on that next month. But we're doing together what none of us can do on our own. I couldn't do this all my own. I mean, I could, but it would be very much fun. So help us promote your values and demonstrate your commitment. Be the future that you wish to see. That's the only way things are ever going to change. So go into Joy of Reason, the next service, Freethought Family Values. We'll talk about what that is, or could be, or what you think it is. If you are a free-thinking parent, you have something you want to contribute, even if it's just a little anecdote about things that happened as the family was growing up, or if you don't have kids and you have some other experience, let me know. Let's have that. It just takes a little bit of forethought to put the thing together so that you're good, like Sarah does, put things together. All right, so we'll see you all at Jason's, I hope. Blank screen means we're over. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next month, May 4th.
Real solid.